All right, folks, looks like we can get started here. Ready to go? I'm gonna assume that's a yes here. All right. Well, good day, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and good night, depending on where you are. My name is Will Gathright. I'm the CIO at Fortress Power here, and I'm actually excited to be able to spend a little bit of time talking about a project that we've been working on for a while to help put Fortress batteries online here called the Fortress Guardian. So we're going to talk a little bit about this like internet gateway device here. Before we do, I'll just say toe the company line for a second, talk a little bit about Fortress Power. So we're a manufacturer of lithium iron phosphate batteries for both residential and commercial applications. We have installation, products and installations ranging everywhere down from 5 kWh at the small end, all the way up to multi-megawatt hour installations on the large end. We're headquartered right here in the USA in Langhorne, PA, which is sort of a northeast suburb of Philly, kind of near the New Jersey border. If you're in the area, definitely come stop in, say hi. We also have offices in China, and California, and Puerto Rico. This is a company that's been founded in 2016, so we've been at this for a while here. We've kind of seen the industry really come in of its own here. This is a woman-owned business. We're doing quite well. We're growing quite quickly. We are well capitalized, so we're going to be around for the long haul here. To date, we've done over 20,000 installations, really worldwide. We have our biggest footprint here in the U.S., in Puerto Rico, in Latin America, but we've done systems all over. We've seen it all, and even we've served even some of the hardest customers in terms of like governments and utilities and whatnot, right? So these are systems that kind of meet some very high standards. Let's get oriented a little bit here. What are we going to talk about today, right? I'm, like I said, here to talk about Guardian, which is the Fortress IoT Gateway product. We'll give a little bit of an overview of the product, do a little unboxing here, so show what you get when you actually pick up one of these things. Talk a little bit about what it will do for you, at least here in the immediate term. When should you look to use Guardian? What types of jobs should you, look to put it in with? And maybe where it's not such a good fit, right? Definitely want to try to avoid frustration of people reaching for a tool that is, not the right tool for the job, right? So when is Guardian going to be a bad fit? After that, we'll do a little bit of a deep dive into the installation of Guardian. And then I'll go over some, like maybe a few troubleshooting case studies, right? For when things, maybe don't go perfectly. It's always nice to know where to look to try to diagnose the problem. And of course, you can always, get the tech support from helpful folks here at Fortress, from our applications engineers. All right. So we'll jump right into it, right? So here's the Guardian itself. Like I said, this is an internet gateway product, which means that it's designed to get devices that were previously not on the internet online. In a nutshell, what it will do is you will connect, via a battery to some of those communication terminals that are on the top of the eFlex, right? It will read that data. You'll connect it to, you or the homeowner will connect it to a Wi-Fi network. And then after that, you're online. You can use the smartphone app to, get it online, get it provisioned, send it the Wi-Fi credentials, all of that. And that's going to be the general flow of it, right? Reading battery data, sending it up to the cloud. Once it's in the cloud, of course, we can retrieve it, on the smartphone app. So just get a few looks at it. There's some status lights here on the top. These are going to be helpful later for troubleshooting, right? They show things like the status of the power, whether or not it's connected to the cloud, whether or not it's connected to Wi-Fi, or whether it's broadcasting Bluetooth, which we do need to do in order to sort of bootstrap the installation process, right? There's no keyboard or screen on the thing. So in order to send it Wi-Fi credentials, you'll see that we'll use Bluetooth to do that. Whether it's receiving serial data or not, and then there's a fault light on here too. So here's a look at the underside of the thing. We've designed it to be wall mounted, so There's a DIN rail clip on here. If you don't want to use the DIN rail clip, that's fine. It actually sits fine on a bench top, but you can just unscrew this if you don't want to use it. All right, so actually let's go through a quick, let's see, I'll stop sharing for a moment so that my video gets a little big. So just as part of this orientation here, we'll go through what's in the box, right? So if you get Guardian, comes in a box like so. And if you open it, there's a few things that may at first look puzzling to you. So I think it's nice to go over it. If you ever need a reference, we include a little packing sheet in here. I'm going to go over this installation guide in some detail in this talk, but a printed copy of it is available in the box. The first and most prominent thing that you'll see in the box once you open it is this just sort of like welcome cover here. This QR code will take you to fortresspower.com/guardian. That's kind of the homepage for the project. I invite you to, kind of keep an eye on it, check in from time to time, because this is a product that's in very active development. So all the features that you see here today are by no means complete. We'll be continuing to add on to this, put cool new stuff over time. So just check in periodically, because if there is something that you want and it's not available as a feature yet, chances are it could be in the future. So also inside the box here are, other than the unit itself, are going to be two other smaller boxes. So in one box, there's going to be, I don't have it on me here, there's going to be a power supply. This is going to be used to plug in to the side, and here you can just power it from the wall. There's nothing fancy here. It's just a standard barrel jack that does 24 volts DC. So if you lose it, don't want to use ours, whatever, you're certainly welcome to do that. There's also going to be a little baggie of just various bits and bobs that we thought would be helpful. So one is a little piece of DIN rail, because like I said, this is the easiest way to mount it to the wall. Put a little bit of DIN rail, clip it on there. To go along with the DIN rail, we have a few drywall or, whatever, screws with drywall anchors. So these are included here. These are not masonry screws. If you're trying to put this into brick or concrete or whatever, you're going to have to bring your own screws for that. But other than that, these should do pretty good. The unit is not very heavy. There's a few blank plugs here just to kind of plug up some of the currently unused ports on the Guardian, just so that little bugs or dust or whatever don't get in there. And then there's a DC power cable. So one of the options that you have is to power the Guardian directly off of the eFlex batteries. So this is nothing more than a couple terminal forks terminated on this end, right? Red to plus. We have an inline fuse. And then this will plug in to the front of the Guardian where it says power 48 volts. So you plug that grief connector in right here to get it powered up. Okay. Let's go back to sharing the screen here. Okay. So that's what it is. That's what you get. That's what's in the box. Now, why would we want such a thing? Right now, the Guardian serves really one purpose, which is for remote monitoring, right? This is remote monitoring that's nice for the end user because maybe they can keep their eye on it. They can see whether the system is charged up or not. If it's in a remote location, they can make sure that the system isn't getting dangerously low or undercharged, right? They don't want it to self-discharge too much. That's always a bummer to come back and find your system is, in need of some rescue. But it's also a really helpful tool for tech support, right? As I'm sure people on this call know, batteries are actually pretty data-rich boxes, right? Like the BMS of these things is spitting off a lot of data. There's a lot of different questions that you might have to ask if there's a troubleshooting situation. And it's really hard to do these over the phone. Like I sit next to our tech support team, our AP team, and I'm very impressed with those guys every single day. Because they have a really hard job. Somebody calls them up and they have to quickly figure out, what is your problem? What's the state of your system? What is, like, whoever they're talking to, what is your level of acumen with this stuff? And they have to do this over the phone, which is a pretty data poor way to communicate, right? So This will give access to our tech support team to be able to see the usage history of this system, right? Aha, I can see that you were charging and discharging fine yesterday. You did it twice. You were in normal voltage ranges, and suddenly at 3 a.m. when no one was looking at the system, the voltage started to fall. Why is that? Okay, well, we've seen this before. So getting that extra bit of data is really going to help in one sentence, get you better, faster, cheaper tech support. It'll also be much easier warranty claims by registering your system with the Guardian. That registers you with with our warranty program. There's no need to fill out extra forms or whatnot, and it also will help to be able to just get yourself in the system, right? If you ever need to have a warranty claim, you're sure you're there. Like I said, this is a product that's under active development, so whatever. Check this space later. More cool features to come. So when is Guardian a good tool? When is this something you'd want to reach for, right? As of this very moment, the Guardian is compatible with the eFlex products out in the field. So you can hook it up to an eFlex. It's set up to read the data coming off of the eFlex BMS. That makes it a great companion for any eFlex installation, particularly if you are using like the Flex Tower or the Durarak product to mount these eFlex batteries. And the reason is very simple. Like, the Durarak product is a really cool product. It's nice and sleek. It has a good form factor. But one of the inconvenient things that we've heard, some feedback from the market, is that once you stack the batteries in there, it's actually kind of hard to read the front here, the status lights, right? You can't just like look at the status lights and see the SoC, for example, right? So this is something that makes a nice pairing with Guardian. You will have to get an external antenna because this is a big metal box, but you run the antenna out here. You can get one with a magnetic base, pop it up top. There's a DIN rail in the tower where you can mount Guardian, and now you can check the status of these batteries over the phone instead of having to try to stick your head in the cabinet, right? Or worse yet, have the homeowner stick their head in the cabinet. As of right now, it is a requirement that the Guardian have like a pretty reliable internet connection. There's not much that it does that's useful if that isn't the case. So I would say that if you're looking at a job that, this is one of the questions that you'd want to ask, right? And I want to mention that, eVault Max is coming very soon. So this will be coming in the next, we'll be doing a software update for the Guardian in the very near future here, and that will include eVault Max support. The current set of cables will work for both eFlex and eVault Max in that case. So when is Guardian, perhaps not the right tool for the job? Like I said, we do need reliable internet. So if there's no reliable internet, if this is a very, very remote site that doesn't have, access to landline or even cellular internet, regularly, there's not much Guardian can do for that site at present. This may change in the future. Like, there's a number of features that we're looking at adding that might be useful, but as of right now, I would say that people won't have a good experience unless they have this internet connection. And also there are many customers who would really just rather the tech support people not have their data and not broadcast their data out there, and that's perfectly fine. That's their choice. They take that very seriously. So any customers that would sort of choose to remain anonymous for whatever reason, this is not the product for them either. We take cybersecurity very seriously here. I'm happy to talk about some of the kind of geek out on some of the cybersecurity measures that we've taken. So whatever, this is a product designed with security in mind. But the absolute best cybersecurity is to not connect your stuff to the internet. And if you have customers that share that sentiment, again, this is not the product for them. All right, so let's go over what a Guardian installation might look like. Oh, this is where I can bring up my manual here. All right, so this is the quick setup guide that comes in the box with the Guardian. So we'll kind of step through this just to get people oriented, right? And what I want the takeaway from this to be is that the setup process is like pretty quick and painless, and most of it is guided on the app, right? So I've had untrained users go through this process. That's kind of how we've tested it. People that are not necessarily tech savvy, and they've got along fine so far. That said, Process could always use some improvement, and I'm always open to suggestions. Right. So the first thing you do is, I showed all the stuff that comes in the box. At a minimum, you really do only need 3 things. You need the Guardian unit itself, you need the power cable, and then you need this communication cable that comes in the box, right? This communication cable has 2 ends. One is a 6-pin connector. There's one and only one place that the 6-pin connector will go on the Guardian. It's the place where there is 6, 2 rows of 3. We're reading the CAN bus for the technically minded amongst you. And so on the bottom here, it actually says CAN bus, if you want to double check that. The other end of this communication cable has an RJ45 jack, like an Ethernet looking jack, right? And that's going to go directly into the eFlex unit. And it's going to go at the end, right? So if there's only one eFlex battery, end is meaningless. There's just the one battery, right? If there's multiple in a string, the end usually has this little terminating resistor here. Some people don't, it's not, some people don't have this or they've lost it. That's fine. If there's an empty port, just put it in the empty port. That'll be the very end, right? The end here is in my mind, the first eFlex battery is the one that's connected to the inverter, and the end is like, the furthest down that daisy chain, right? So if you are a real CAN bus nerd like me, you might be getting concerned that Will, you're telling me to take out this terminating resistor. We've actually built the proper terminating resistors, 120 ohms, directly into the unit, down on the circuit board itself. So the Guardian will act as that terminator. So you take out the terminating resistor, you plug the cable right in, you plug it into the wall, and then you can wait just you'll have to wait a few moments from there, right? So all the lights will come on, the Bluetooth light will start flashing. That means it's ready to pair to your smartphone for Bluetooth. So download the Guardian app. We have a version on iOS. We have a version on Android. If you haven't done so already, make an account here, right? And here I would urge the homeowner to make an account for the homeowner, or have the homeowner do this step, right? They should make an account so that they have their login credentials. You will add a new place. If this is the first time that you're doing this, there will be no places on the screen. The distinction I'm making here is that one Guardian is one place. So if I've had customers that have put one in their basement and one in their shed out back. They've had to technically add those as separate places, even though they're both technically like at their house, right? So add a new place to get started, and then scan for again, you will pair this as a Bluetooth device. So a little dialog will pop up. It will show all of the Guardians in the area. If there's more than one broadcasting for whatever reason, then you can always check the serial number. Just make sure the serial number lines up, right? It'll say it right there. This does require Bluetooth permissions. So if a dialog pops up on your app that says, please give Fortress Power app permission to use your Bluetooth radio, that's what we're using it for. Please give it permission. The next step is we want to get it online. So now that we're connected with Bluetooth, we want to make sure that it can connect to your home Wi-Fi. So you can scan for Wi-Fi networks, select the correct Wi-Fi network. There'll be a little pop-up for your credentials. Just put in the Wi-Fi password. That's actually, that'll be stored in an encrypted way on the Guardian product itself. Give your place a name. If you choose to, you can put your address here. This is not strictly required. Again, for people that would rather remain anonymous, it just does make it our job at tech support much easier if you do so. Then finally, you can save it. What will happen next is that we're automatically going to scan for whatever connected batteries are there. So we'll automatically discover the batteries in your installation. A list of them will appear here. And then you can save and next. I'm sure that everyone's ears immediately perked up at automatic discovery, and wondering what happens if it goes wrong. So we'll talk about some of that in the troubleshooting, right? No process is perfect. The very first time you do all this, there is going to be a little bit of an onboarding step. Some things have to happen cloud side to set up your account and for it to start feeding data. The Guardian is programmed to send data to the cloud much more frequently if the system is active. So if it's charging or discharging at some meaningful rate. So if you're not seeing any activity, or you're wondering why it's not checking in, or you're wondering why the data is very stale, you can actually see like a little timestamp here as the last, if that's the last data point, and you're wondering why it's not checking in, that's why. So if you need it to check in again, just, have it do something, have the system charge or discharge. Good. So that's it. That's the install process. Again, I am working hard to make this as straightforward as possible, right? But the big idea here is you plug it in, get connected to your batteries, pair Bluetooth, pair Wi-Fi, you're off and running. Okay. All right. So we'll go through again a few troubleshooting case studies here, and then we'll move on to Q&A. So the first and kind of most frequent thing we see is, why can't it find my Wi-Fi network, right? I've come to this step, I've scanned, I can't find my Wi-Fi network. Unfortunately, this can be a little bit tricky, right? Because it's like this weird invisible problem, and it's really hard to diagnose this remotely if my tech support people can't see your setup. So there's a few things you can do, right? The first and simplest thing is check to see if you can find your Wi-Fi on your phone, right? If you can't, that's a pretty good sign that maybe you're too far away from your network. Signal strength is very weak, right? If you can, then we're going to want to ask some other questions, because that means the network is there and it's available, and we should be able to pick it up. So a very nice thing to have will be something like, what is the signal strength? So there are Wi-Fi, signal strength apps that you can get for free, both on Android and iOS, that will, find all the available networks and report meaningful statistics like the signal strength. You'll see that noted as RSSI, right? So if people ask you for that, that's really what we're looking for. We want to make sure that the signal is powerful enough to find. It's also possible, we've encountered some situation where your Wi-Fi protocol is like a very, very, very old, right? So if you are working with 25-year-old Wi-Fi router, might not be compatible with that. Might be time for an upgrade. The auto discovery process, right? In general, this works really well, because if the batteries are, communicating in parallel over CAN bus, we're just reading that data. So why can't the Guardian find all my batteries? The most common cause for this is that there's actually something wrong with the installation. It's not something wrong with the Guardian. We've actually, caught some, helped people to improve their battery installation because they caught problems like this while installing Guardian, right? So it's going to sound really stupid, but it's always the stupid stuff that gets you on site, isn't it? Right? Check the cables. Check, are the cables, of high quality? Are they making good connection? Are there like loose wires in there, especially in that RJ45 jack? Are both ends terminated, right? So again, the Guardian will act as one terminator of the CAN bus chain. The other end usually comes at either battery number 1 or at the inverter. So just make sure there's those resistors on either end. Those really help with the CAN bus, communication. And finally, if you've done this, you've checked out the physical layer, you're very, very sure that this works. You will want to, the best way to sort of diagnose some of this stuff is with this PC CAN tool that we make available. The Guardian is not designed to be a complete replacement for the PC CAN tool. There's going to be some cases where you still need to use that, right? And so if you're out there doing these installations, it's a good idea to be familiar with that tool at all. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you don't have a CAN tool, or you're not confident using it, please be sure to let us know. We can get you the support you need. We usually ship these out to people that need them. If you do have a PC CAN tool and the appropriate software for the eFlex or the eVault Max, this is a great troubleshooting tool, right? Because if you can't get to the data that you're interested in using the PC CAN tool, then the Guardian will not be able to do that either, right? And then that's going to be a really helpful thing for us to know if we're helping, if you or we are helping you to diagnose a problem. All right, finally, my sort of catch-all category here. The app did something strange. So, A, just for the sake of my sanity, please be a little more specific if you're talking about problems like this. Getting support tickets saying it didn't work. While I appreciate you reaching out, we can help you much faster if you're the more specific and the more context you have. Okay. I've tried to make it very easy to report problems with the Guardian and with the app in particular. So if you have the app and you run into a problem, you can actually report bugs right on the app. And there's two ways to do this. Many modern phones will support the shake gesture, and it's just what it sounds like. You shake the thing like this, or you even like tap it lightly against your palm, like you're really frustrated with the thing because it's not working. That'll actually bring up a little bug report dialog right on the app. And so right on the app, you can tell me about your problem, take a screenshot, circle it in red. There's all kinds of tools there to let me know, what's going on. It didn't work. It didn't work like you expect. Right. If you think the app is not responding or it's doing something weird, then one thing to be aware of is that it's possible to force quit apps. This isn't just true of my app. This is true of all the apps on Android and iOS. You should be able to force quit, any unresponsive app. So, on iOS, what you have to do is swipe up from the bottom halfway up the screen. That will give you a display that shows like all your open apps. And then you can just flick an app up to close it. It'll go flying away, right? Similar procedure on Android. There's a little button, that looks like 3 or 4 horizontal lines. They call a hamburger menu in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Tap that. Again, you're going to be presented with a list of like all your open apps, and you can just flick up the unresponsive app from there. 9 times out of 10, force closing the app and restarting it, will be able to resolve your issue. Okay. And again, if you run into problems, I really, want to say that you guys aren't, you're not alone on this. This is a product that we want to make better. I want to make better and improve every day with the help of the community, and that's you all, right? So please let me know your problems, your frustrations, your genius ideas for improvement. Any of this stuff, we're here to listen, and we're absolutely here to help. So yeah, with that, I think I will conclude my prepared remarks here. I thank everybody so much. And it looks like we have a few time for Q&A here. So yeah, it's not too late. Please submit your Q&A. I will start to go through some of these here as we look at it. It looks like we're getting a question about some of the power sources. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So there are 2 ways to power the Guardian, like I mentioned. You can power it from the wall power supply, 24 volts. You can come right in here, right? Or you can power it directly off the battery terminals. So I'll take between 40 and 60 volts DC. You can put it in the front here. It's really your choice which one you want to use. You can do them both at the same time. That's completely fine. And if you do both, they sort of back each other up automatically. So if 2 are in and then you pull one out, or there's there's a blackout, the Guardian won't go off, or it won't reset or anything like that. Right. They back each other up. For the most part, for on-grid installations, I recommend just using the wall plug because it's easier. You get on and off the job site faster. For off-grid systems, I would really recommend powering it directly off the battery, right? The reason there is that if the whole building is depending on your, inverter PV battery system for power, and if that trips off on the AC side, you won't want to lose this, right? Very good. Will installers be able to have a fleet view of systems with the Guardian attached? The answer is yes. That's a feature that we are working on. So, this is something that we're planning for, maybe a little bit later this year. And if you have some ideas about that or features that you think are absolutely must have, please let me know. So see if I can't put my, share my email address here at the end of this, webinar for suggestions. Let's see. We have a question about, let's see, without the Guardian system, inverters that already have closed loop communication do not need a system like this. Strictly speaking, this is like an optional thing, right? This is for monitoring. Closed loop communication is something that happens between the battery and the inverter, right? So if you're doing closed loop communication, which is our recommended way to set up systems, then again, right, you configure the batteries to talk to the inverter directly. That's between them. This really, right now, like I said, is just a monitoring and a tech support tool. So to answer your question directly, no, it's not strictly needed, but it is recommended, right? Because again, we believe it's a better experience for the homeowner, for your customer, and it's certainly much easier to get tech support if you have this product. Okay, why are there so many ports on the Guardian? Yeah, this is a fantastic question. The answer is that we have a lot planned for this product. So there's a lot. We have sort of big ambitions for it. It's going to tie into more and more Fortress Power products in the future, and perhaps other products, and will sort of expand the range of functions that it has going forward. So the answer is it has many other ports because it's going to do many other things in the future, and I don't want to I don't want people that bought it today to start feeling that FOMO of like, oh, next generation is so much cooler. I tried to future proof it a little bit here. Very good. And there was a question about what can we expect in the future. I kind of touched on that a bit. Well, wonderful, folks. It looks like we're kind of at time here. So a couple more questions are coming in here. Are there any preferred inverters for the Guardian? Yeah, this is a great question. So the answer is not quite yet, right? Right now, what I'm doing is I am reading data that's coming off of Fortress batteries. So any Fortress battery, regardless of inverter, is something that, they'll work equally well, no matter which inverter you are looking at. For some of these, Fortress has announced a high voltage line of products where we're going to be offering our own inverter. In that case, I'm able to integrate a lot more closely, but that's down the line for right now, right? For focus on today, any inverter is fine. That's great. All right, folks. So yeah, once again, definitely appreciate everybody's time. I'll make my email available, if there's any follow-up questions and whatnot. And again, appreciate you coming.